Welcome to the podcast, everyone. Now, not too long ago, I spoke about the failure of the U.S. education system. And I said that with good reason, because a lot of things in history was left out when it was taught to us. And that was done intentionally. It's the same principle of when we learn about Black history, it always begins and ends with slavery, but it never discusses who we were before slavery. That's even scarier than what I'm about to tell you. So, how many of you remember learning about the Louisiana Purchase? We were all made to believe that the 13 colonies were looking to expand, so they went to the French and asked to purchase the Louisiana territory, and France gave in. So we had the Louisiana Purchase, which more than doubled the size of the country at the time, which was the 13 colonies at first, and it more than doubled that size. We never learned about what the real reasoning behind that was, but I'm going to tell you tonight. You see, Haiti had a revolution in 1791. They too were part of the transatlantic slave trade. And just like everywhere else, the culture that was in slavery, we were deemed to be not intelligent and just we lacked any form of intelligence or pre-planning. So even though we outnumbered the slave master, they didn't look at that as threatening because they didn't believe us to have any form of intelligence whatsoever. Well, in Haiti, the French thought that. The French, who also occupied the island of Haiti. Now, they were just as ruthless to the slaves as slave masters were in the United States or all throughout the Americas. But there was something different about those in Haiti. Haitians got together and they designed a plan. Now, what's interesting is there was a few Haitians that executed the plan too early. And when they were questioned about what they were doing, they indicated that there was a plan to overthrow the French and to gain their independence. That was not taken seriously at all. So when the real revolution began, there were already 200 leaders for Haiti, which indicates that this level of planning had taken place long before the revolution even began. And the fact that they had 200 leaders shows that pre-planning, that attention to detail. So the revolution began and the Haitians fought back. They fought back so intensely that the French were dumbfounded. Now, the thing that stands out with that is at that time, France was the strongest military power in the world, led under Napoleon. The Haitians, our brothers and sisters on that island, they fought back. They fought back so intensely that France actually had to call for reinforcements to go to Haiti because the Haitians were fighting back with so much intensity that they caused a stalemate for a while. But eventually, the French were losing. At that time, France was using Haiti as a cash crop for their sugarcane. So France was making a lot of money off the sugarcane crops. So what the Haitians did, they burned the crops. So no crops, no money, or a loss of money. So with that occurring over time, France lost a lot of money. And they lost so much that they eventually had to give up. And there was a deal made to give the Haitians their freedom, but they had to pay back the money that France lost. And what's interesting is during that war, because the Haitian Revolution lasted from 1791 to 1804, and France even aligned with Britain to fight the Haitians, and that still wasn't gaining them any ground whatsoever. So the Haitians, who technically didn't have the modern weapons as the rest of the world did, or the military powers of that time, were still winning against the colonizers. Now, You see, this is why none of this has been in our history books, because people fear us getting influenced by what took place and fear that we would do the same thing. It doesn't matter that it was centuries ago. There would still be that degree of influence or motivation for that. So France was forced to surrender. They lost so many troops, so much money. So they surrendered and they gave Haiti their freedom. So technically, Haiti was the first Black republic, but Western countries chose not to acknowledge them at all. They chose not to even acknowledge their existence. So what happened was they were ostracized by the rest of the world in terms of acknowledging their existence. How is that related to the Louisiana Purchase? Well, you see, France lost so much money, they had to recoup their losses. So France basically had no choice but to sell the Louisiana territory to make up for the money that they lost, because although they lost a lot of lives, they lost a whole lot in finances. And so they had to recoup their losses. But what wound up occurring is Haiti, even though they were given their freedom, they had to pay back the money that France lost. So you figure the Haitian Revolution ended in 1804. Here it is, 2026. And let me tell you that within the last 10 years, Haiti just finished paying that money back to France. And basically, they were forced to pay that money back. And because the rest of the world refused to acknowledge them as a country, they weren't able to make trade deals with anyone. They were ostracized. They were cast out. So because they weren't recognized as being a country, that affected their finances. So that's why Haiti is the way that it is. And then the 42nd president made a bad deal with them also, which didn't help them at all. It only made things worse for Haitians. So because of those things, that's why many of them have come to the United States to get more opportunities. However, they receive almost the same amount of hatred, if not a little bit more than what we do in the United States. That's why their temporary protective status was revoked. You see, the whole world is in on it. More so the Western countries. Western civilization is in on it. But this is the reason why they never told you about Haiti being related to causing the Louisiana Purchase in the first place, because they don't want you to know that Black people can cause that type of damage from a rebellion. And it didn't even matter that they didn't have the modern weapons. They still won. There was nothing France could do with the Haitians at all. They were too determined to win, and that they wanted their freedom. And of course, France tried to make a deal with them that if they fought with them, then they would earn their freedom. And unfortunately, I guess maybe a few fell for that until they overheard the plans that as soon as the war was over, they were going right back into slavery again. So that outraged Haitians even more and just gave them more motivation to fight back. So this is the reason why we haven't learned about that, because they don't want us to feel motivated to fight back in that same level of intensity. And that's the real reason why we get treated so unfairly, or we even get dirty looks, or they try to pit us against each other in some shape or form, because they don't want us uniting. That's the real fear that they have. That's what most of them have that have an issue with Black people or the Black community as a whole. They don't want us uniting at all. That's their greatest fear, because if we unite with each other, it's not really much they can do to us. And if we took on the same mindset as the Haitians did back then, I guarantee you we wouldn't be in this position. Because what I also disclosed to you in another podcast was, and again, I don't remember the exact year, but there were 394,000 slave owners. There was 3.4 million slaves. So just think what would have happened if even 10, 20% of the slaves heard about Haiti's revolution, and how that would have inspired us even more so to know that regardless of the weapons these people have, we can still overtake them. So that's why they put little obstacles and hurdles in front of us to try to pit us against each other, because the greatest threat is our unity. And this is why your school books never said anything about the Haitian Revolution. I'm sure there's some class someone could take to find that out, but it's not in general education at all. They make general education learning about us being in slavery, because on the same note, they're trying to indoctrinate us to make us think that we're irrelevant. We don't have the strength to go against them. While I'm on the topic, many of you don't even realize that Black people that are in the Caribbean, Black people that are all throughout the South Americas, we are all the same people. We all have the same origin. We're the same tribe, except we have just been distributed to different areas. But that doesn't make one better than the other. We're the same people. And when we finally realize that and start standing up with each other, things will be a whole lot better for us. But we're too focused on where we're from, a temporary location, but that's not actually where we're from. We are all the same tribe, whether you're in Jamaica, Aruba, Haiti, Mexico, Venezuela, any part of the Americas and their islands that Black people were transported to in the transatlantic slave trade. We are all the same people. Now, there may be some differences now because we've been in these lands for around 400 years. So on the islands, as some of these islands are Black run and Black dominant, on some of the islands, there may be some stronger Black features that they have because they're not procreating with people outside of their community. And back when that actually happened, there's been so many generations to go by that their blood is a lot more pure, where many of us in the United States, our blood is not going to be as pure, because really in the United States, we have only had our freedom from slavery for the last 161 years. So we still have some traits and features like our oppressors, but that doesn't make any of us any superior, any more superior or inferior to the other. We have to stop thinking like that. It's just like many of you who live in the same state or city, but you live in different sections. You don't talk down on your family members because they're from a different section of that particular city, do you? And if you don't do that with your family members, why are you doing that with your own people? We need to stop this divisionism amongst ourselves. It's not helping us. And with our division, you're making people who hate us a little more comfortable. And we don't want them to be comfortable. If they hate us, they need to be uncomfortable, because we are progressing. We are catching up. And that's the thing they fear the most. So if your enemy has a fear or something, make it happen. Whatever that fear is, try to make it happen for them. The biggest mistake that we make as a whole is we try to do everything ourselves rather than praying for guidance. If the majority of us prayed for guidance, things would be so much different. But we are slowly learning. So that's why things are beginning to change slowly but surely. But it's important that we unite with each other. And when we finally realize that, there's no stopping us.